There was something almost ceremonial about the way my mother arranged the living room every Sunday evening. The remote control positioned precisely next to my father's recliner, Tyler's latest soccer highlight reel queued up on the tablet, and 3 spots reserved on the couch for what she called family appreciation time. But there were 4 people in our family. The 4th spot had been claimed long ago by a collection of Tyler's trophies that somehow seemed more important than an actual family member. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. I watched from the kitchen doorway as my parents settled into their routine, my father already reaching for his reading glasses to scroll through Tyler's game statistics from yesterday's match. My mother was arranging a fresh bouquet of flowers on the coffee table, the kind of attention to detail she usually reserved for when guests were coming over. But no guests were expected. This was just another Sunday evening worship session at the altar of Tyler's athletic achievements. My brother walked in wearing his West Side Thunder jersey, still damp with sweat from afternoon practice, and collapsed into the center cushion like he owned the entire house, which in many ways he did. At 19, Tyler Chen had already accumulated more parental attention, financial investment, and emotional energy than most kids see in a lifetime. Club soccer fees, private coaching sessions, out-of-state tournament travel, specialized equipment, and now recruitment visits to Division I colleges. The family calendar revolved around his schedule like planets orbiting the sun. I remained in the kitchen, invisible as always, stirring my coffee and listening to them discuss his upcoming regional championship game. The same regional championship that happened to fall on the exact same day as my PhD graduation ceremony. The ceremony I'd been working toward for the past 6 years. The ceremony that would make me the first person in our family to earn a doctoral degree. The ceremony that apparently ranked somewhere below Tyler's 3rd tournament game of the season. The decision had been made 3 weeks ago, delivered to me with the casual indifference usually reserved for discussing weekend grocery plans. Tyler's team had advanced further than expected in the state playoffs, and the championship game had been scheduled for the same Saturday as my graduation. My mother had looked up from her phone where she'd been coordinating hotel reservations for the soccer families and said, "Maya honey, we're going to have to miss your graduation thing. Tyler's championship is the same day, and we already committed to the team parents' celebration dinner. Your graduation thing, 6 years of graduate school, hundreds of hours in the biomedical engineering lab, countless late nights writing research papers, and a dissertation defense that had taken me 3 months to prepare for, reduced to a thing that could be easily skipped." I'd stood there in our suburban Beaverton kitchen, holding my official graduation announcement with the embossed Oregon State University seal, and felt something inside me quietly break. "It's not just a graduation," I'd said, keeping my voice level and professional, the way I'd learned to speak in academic conferences where being emotional was seen as unprofessional. "It's the culmination of my doctoral program. I'm receiving recognition for my research in prosthetic neural interface technology." My father had glanced up from his tablet where he was watching Tyler's game footage for the 4th time that week. "Can't you just get the diploma mailed to you? These ceremonies are mostly just pageantry anyway." Pageantry, my doctoral hooding ceremony, where I would be recognized alongside other scholars who had contributed original research to their fields, dismissed as pageantry. While Tyler's soccer game, one of dozens he'd played that season, was treated like the Olympics. Besides, my mother had added refilling Tyler's protein shake without being asked. This could be Tyler's ticket to a full scholarship at University of Washington. College scouts will be there. It's his future we're talking about. I'd wanted to point out that my future was also at stake. That my PhD wasn't just an academic exercise, but the foundation for a career in biomedical research that could potentially help thousands of people regain mobility through advanced prosthetic technology. That my dissertation advisor, Dr. Amanda Rodriguez, had already mentioned opportunities for me to continue my research at Stanford's renowned biomedical engineering program. That I'd spent the last 2 years developing neural interface protocols that could revolutionize how amputees interact with prosthetic limbs. But I'd learned long ago that in the Chen household, my achievements were interesting conversation pieces while Tyler's were family priorities. The pattern had been established early. While Tyler was enrolled in competitive soccer leagues before he could properly tie his own cleats, I was expected to excel academically without much fanfare or support. When Tyler scored goals, the whole family celebrated with dinner at his favorite restaurant. When I made the dean's list every semester during my undergraduate studies, I got a congratulatory text message and a suggestion that I treat myself to something nice. The financial disparity was even more stark. Tyler's soccer expenses consumed roughly $30,000 a year of family income. Private coaching sessions, tournament fees, travel costs, equipment, and specialized training camps. My parents had cheerfully taken out a second mortgage to fund his athletic pursuits. Meanwhile, I'd worked 3 part-time jobs during my undergraduate years to avoid burdening the family with additional educational costs, and I'd been funding my graduate studies through research assistantships and academic scholarships that I'd earned entirely on my own merit. Not that anyone seemed to notice the difference. The worst part wasn't the money or even the time. It was the casual dismissal of my accomplishments as somehow less valuable than Tyler's. When I'd been accepted into Oregon State's competitive biomedical engineering doctoral program, my mother had posted about it once on Facebook with a brief "proud of Maya" caption. When Tyler scored a hat trick in a regional tournament, she'd created a photo album with 47 pictures and tagged every family member, family friend, and neighbor within a 50-mile radius.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
I'd stopped expecting equal treatment years ago, but I hadn't expected to be completely excluded from my own graduation ceremony. 3 weeks had passed since that kitchen conversation, and my parents had thrown themselves into championship game preparation with the enthusiasm of event planners organizing a royal wedding. Hotel reservations in Salem, where the game would be held. Dinner reservations for the team celebration. New team shirts printed with Tyler's jersey number. A professional photographer hired to capture his potential scholarship-earning moments. Meanwhile, my graduation ceremony would take place 200 miles away in Corvallis, in the same Jill Coliseum, where I'd attended basketball games as an undergraduate student. I'd pictured walking across that stage in my doctoral robes, receiving my hood from Dr. Rodriguez, and looking out into the audience to see my family's proud faces. Instead, I'd be walking across that stage to empty seats, while my parents cheered for Tyler from the sidelines of a soccer field. I'd considered not walking at graduation at all. The diploma would be mailed to me regardless, and avoiding the ceremony would spare me the humiliation of having no family members present while my classmates celebrated with parents, siblings, grandparents, and extended family members who had traveled from across the country to witness their achievements. But Dr. Rodriguez had convinced me otherwise during our last research meeting in her cluttered office overlooking the engineering quad. "Maya," she'd said, looking up from the stack of research papers she'd been reviewing, "you've earned this moment. You've contributed genuinely innovative work to our field. Your research on neural interface calibration could change how we approach prosthetic rehabilitation. Don't let anyone diminish what you've accomplished." She'd paused, studying my face with the perceptive intelligence that had made her one of the most respected researchers in biomedical engineering. "Family dynamics can be complicated," she'd continued carefully. "But your worth isn't determined by who shows up to celebrate your achievements. It's determined by the work itself and the impact you'll have on the world." Dr. Rodriguez had become something of a mentor figure over the past 3 years, guiding not just my research but also my professional development. She'd introduced me to conferences, helped me network with other researchers, and consistently treated my work with the respect and attention it deserved. In many ways, she'd provided the academic encouragement and support that I'd never received at home. Besides, she'd added with a small smile, "My husband and I will be there. And Dr. Vasquez from the prosthetics lab, and your entire research team. You won't be celebrating alone." She was right. Over the course of my graduate studies, I'd built relationships with faculty members, research colleagues, and fellow students who understood and valued the work I was doing. Kevin, Priya, and Marcus from my research team had become close friends, the kind of people who celebrated each other's successes and supported each other through challenges. James Mitchell, my closest friend from the engineering program, had already promised to save seats for everyone and organize a post-graduation dinner. These were people who understood that a doctoral degree represented years of dedicated work, original thinking, and intellectual courage. They recognized that my research had potential real-world applications that could improve people's lives. They treated my graduation not as an inconvenient scheduling conflict, but as a significant milestone worth celebrating. The irony wasn't lost on me that I'd found more family support among my academic colleagues than in my actual family. 2 days before graduation, I'd made one final attempt to reach my parents. Tyler was in his room, probably reviewing game footage or texting with teammates about strategy. My parents were in the living room, my mother organizing Tyler's tournament gear, while my father researched the college recruiters who would be attending the championship game. I'd sat down on the couch, careful not to disturb the trophy display, and tried one more time to explain what this graduation meant to me. I know Tyler's game is important, I'd begun, but I need you to understand that this graduation represents 6 years of my life. It's not just a ceremony, it's recognition for research that could help people with limb differences live more independent lives. My mother had looked up from Tyler's gear bag, her expression patient but slightly annoyed, as if I was interrupting something important. Maya, we understand that you're proud of your accomplishments, and we're proud of you too. But Tyler's championship game could determine his entire future. College recruiters will be there. This could be his only shot at a Division I scholarship. And my PhD could determine my entire future too, I'd replied. I've been offered a position at Stanford to continue my research. This graduation is the culmination of everything I've worked for. My father had finally looked up from his laptop. You're already successful, Maya. You don't need us there to validate your achievements. Tyler needs our support right now. He's under enormous pressure. I'd sat there for a moment processing what he'd just said. I was already successful, so I didn't need family support. Tyler was under pressure, so he did. As if success eliminated the human need for family recognition and celebration. As if pressure was more important than accomplishment. That night, I'd called Dr. Rodriguez and told her about the conversation. Maya, she'd said, her voice gentle but firm, some families struggle to recognize different types of achievement. That doesn't make your accomplishments less valuable. It just means you need to build your own support system with people who understand what you've accomplished. She'd been right. And over the past 2 days, I'd realized that I had built that support system. My research team, my faculty mentors, my graduate school friends, James and the other students who'd become genuine friends, rather than just classmates. These were people who celebrated intellectual curiosity, who valued research and innovation, who understood that advancing human knowledge was meaningful work. On graduation morning, I'd driven to Corvallis alone, my doctoral robes hanging carefully in the back seat of my Honda Civic. The 2-hour drive through the Willamette Valley had given me time to think about what this day represented. Not just the completion of my degree, but the beginning of a new chapter where I would be surrounded by people who valued the same things I valued. The Gill Coliseum had been transformed for the ceremony, with rows of chairs facing a stage decorated with the university's colors, and banners representing each academic department. Families were already arriving, parents and siblings and grandparents, carrying flowers and cameras, and the kind of excitement that comes with celebrating someone you love. I'd found my research team in the designated area for doctoral candidates. Kevin had brought his parents, who'd driven down from Seattle specifically for graduation. Priya's entire extended family had made the trip from Portland, including aunts and uncles and cousins who treated her achievement as a family celebration. Marcus was surrounded by his wife and 2 young children, all wearing matching t-shirts that said Dr. Dad in celebration of his completion. James had saved seats in the family section for Dr. Rodriguez and her husband, Dr. Vasquez, from the prosthetics lab, and several other faculty members who had supported my research over the years. When I'd walked over to greet them before the ceremony, Dr. Rodriguez had embraced me with genuine warmth. "Are you ready for this, Dr. Chen?" she'd asked, using my soon-to-be official title with a smile, Dr. Chen. In a few hours, I would officially be Dr. Maya Chen, holder of a doctorate in biomedical engineering, researcher in neural interface technology, and contributor to scientific knowledge that could improve thousands of lives. The ceremony itself had been everything I'd hoped for. Walking across the stage to receive my diploma, having my research recognized in the program notes, wearing the doctoral hood that represented years of dedicated work and intellectual growth. When my name was called, I'd heard cheering from the faculty section where my academic family had gathered to celebrate with me. Dr. Rodriguez had been right. I wasn't celebrating alone. I was celebrating with people who understood and valued what I'd accomplished. People who had chosen to be there because they recognized the significance of this moment. After the ceremony, our group had gone to dinner at a restaurant in downtown Corvallis that Dr. Rodriguez had reserved weeks in advance. The conversation had ranged from research updates to career opportunities, to shared stories about the challenges and rewards of graduate school. James had made a toast to Dr. Chen and her groundbreaking research that's going to change lives. Vasquez had announced that my work was being considered for publication in the Journal of Biomedical Engineering. It had been the kind of celebration I'd always imagined for my graduation, surrounded by people who understood the significance of the achievement, who were genuinely excited about my future prospects, who treated my doctoral degree as the major accomplishment it represented. That evening, I'd driven back to Portland with a strange sense of closure. Not sadness, exactly, but a quiet recognition that something had fundamentally shifted in my relationship with my family. They had made their choice, and I had made mine. My phone had been silent all day. No congratulatory texts, no phone calls asking how the ceremony had gone, no acknowledgement that this was a significant day in my life. Tyler's championship game had apparently required everyone's complete attention. When I'd arrived home late that night, the house had been dark, except for the porch light. Tyler's soccer gear was piled by the front door, and I could see his new championship trophy already displayed prominently on the living room mantel. A handwritten note from my mother was taped to the refrigerator. Tyler's team won. Going out to celebrate. Leftover pizza in the fridge. I'd stood in the kitchen of my childhood home, still wearing my graduation dress, looking at a note about leftover pizza, while holding my doctoral diploma. The contrast had been so stark it was almost absurd, but I wasn't angry anymore. I was resolved. The next morning, I'd begun making phone calls about the Stanford position Dr. Rodriguez had mentioned. By the end of the week, I'd scheduled interviews with 3 different research programs on the West Coast. Within 2 weeks, I'd accepted a postdoctoral research position at Stanford's biomedical engineering department, with the opportunity to lead my own research team and continue developing neural interface technology. Moving to California would mean leaving Portland, leaving the family home where I'd never quite fit. Leaving the Sunday evening trophy worship sessions, where my achievements were footnotes to Tyler's athletic career. It would also mean joining a community of researchers and academics who understood that intellectual accomplishment was worth celebrating, that advancing human knowledge was meaningful work, that supporting each other's successes created stronger professional relationships and better research outcomes. 2 months later, I'd packed my belongings into a moving truck and driven south to begin the next phase of my career. Dr. Rodriguez had helped me find an apartment near the Stanford campus. James had connected me with other researchers in the biomedical engineering community. My research team had promised to stay in touch and collaborate on future projects. My parents had seemed surprised by my decision to move, as if they'd expected me to remain indefinitely on Portland, despite having no local career opportunities in my field. They'd offered to help with the move, a gesture that felt both too little and too late. I'd thanked them politely and hired professional movers instead. On my last evening in Portland, my mother had attempted something that might have been an apology. "Maya, we're proud of what you've accomplished," she'd said, standing in the doorway of my nearly empty childhood bedroom. "We know you worked hard for your degree." I'd nodded, continuing to pack the few remaining items into boxes. "Thank you. It's just that Tyler's opportunities are so time-sensitive. His athletic career has such a narrow window, and your career will be there whenever you're ready for it." Even in her attempt at reconciliation, she'd managed to diminish my achievements while elevating Tyler's. My career would be there whenever I was ready for it, as if a PhD in biomedical engineering was something I could pick up and put down at will, rather than the result of years of focused effort and the foundation for opportunities that were equally time-sensitive. "I understand," I'd said, because I finally did understand. I understood that we valued different things, prioritized different achievements, and measured success by different standards. I understood that this wasn't likely to change, and that I needed to build my life around people who shared my values, rather than constantly seeking validation from people who didn't. "You'll stay in touch, won't you?" she'd asked. Of course, I'd replied, and I would. But staying in touch would mean holiday cards and occasional phone calls, not the close family relationship I once hoped for. That relationship had been offered to Tyler long ago, and there wasn't room for 2 people in that particular spotlight. 3 years have passed since I left Portland for Stanford. 3 years of conducting research that has been published in major journals, presenting findings at international conferences, and developing neural interface technology that is now being tested in clinical trials. Years of building professional relationships with colleagues who celebrate each other's successes, support each other through challenges, and understand that advancing scientific knowledge is meaningful work worth dedicating your life to. I've been promoted to assistant research director, leading a team of graduate students and postdoctoral researchers who are as passionate about biomedical engineering as I am. Our work on neural interface calibration has been featured in Scientific American and has attracted funding from major medical device companies interested in bringing our research to market. Dr. Rodriguez, who moved to Stanford the year after I did, has become not just a mentor but a genuine friend and colleague. James completed his own PhD and now works for a medical device company in San Francisco. We have dinner regularly and collaborate on research projects that combine our expertise in different aspects of biomedical engineering. My research team has become something like a chosen family, the kind of people who celebrate each other's publications, attend each other's conference presentations, and understand that academic achievements are worth recognizing and supporting. When Kevin defended his dissertation last month, we all traveled to Oregon to attend his ceremony and celebrate with him afterward. This is what family support looks like in academic circles. Showing up for each other's important moments, understanding the significance of scholarly achievements, treating intellectual accomplishment as worthy of celebration and recognition. My parents and I still exchange holiday cards and occasional phone calls. Tyler received his soccer scholarship to University of Washington and is now in his junior year, studying business administration and playing for the Huskies. My parents attend his games when possible and post regular updates about his athletic achievements on social media. They've never visited me at Stanford. They've never asked about my research or expressed interest in the work I'm doing. When I mention conference presentations or published papers, they respond with polite congratulations that feel more like acknowledgments of nice weather than recognition of professional accomplishments. But I've stopped expecting different responses from them. Instead, I've invested my emotional energy in relationships with people who understand and value the work I do. My chosen family of colleagues, mentors, research collaborators, and academic friends who celebrate intellectual curiosity and support each other's professional growth. Last month, I received an offer to lead the Neural Interface Research Program at Johns Hopkins, one of the most prestigious positions in my field. The opportunity would mean relocating again, but it would also mean directing groundbreaking research that could revolutionize prosthetic technology and help thousands of people live more independent lives. I accepted the position immediately. When I called my parents to share the news, their response was predictably lukewarm. Congratulations mixed with concern about how frequently I moved for work, suggestions that I might want to settle down somewhere permanently, and a quick transition to updates about Tyler's latest soccer achievements. When I called Dr. Rodriguez, her response was immediate excitement about the research opportunities, detailed questions about my new laboratory setup, and enthusiastic support for the impact this work could have on the field of biomedical engineering. The contrast no longer surprises me. It simply reinforces what I learned that graduation day 3 years ago. Family isn't just about shared genetics or childhood homes. It's about shared values, mutual support, and people who celebrate your successes because they understand what those successes represent. I chose my new family, and they chose me back. Next week I'll be moving to Baltimore to begin the most important research project of my career. Dr. Rodriguez will be collaborating on the project remotely from Stanford. James is considering a position with our industry partner. Several members of my current research team are planning to apply for positions at Johns Hopkins to continue working together. We're building something meaningful together. Not just research that could change people's lives, but professional relationships based on mutual respect, shared goals, and genuine appreciation for each other's contributions to advancing human knowledge. This is what it looks like when you stop waiting for validation from people who don't understand what you've accomplished and start building relationships with people who do. My parents chose Tyler's soccer game over my PhD graduation, so I chose to build a life surrounded by people who understand that both achievements are worth celebrating, but that intellectual contribution to society deserves just as much recognition as athletic achievement. I don't regret their choice anymore. It taught me to value myself enough to seek out people who value me too, and that has made all the difference. The first indication that something had shifted came 6 months after I'd settled into my new position at Johns Hopkins. I was in my laboratory calibrating neural sensors for our latest prosthetic interface prototype, when my phone buzzed with an unusual number of notifications. Text messages, missed calls, and voicemails, all from numbers I recognized, but hadn't heard from in months. The first message was from my cousin Jessica, who rarely contacted me unless there was family drama brewing. "Maya, can you call me? Something's happening with Uncle Robert, and we need to talk to someone who understands medical stuff." The second was from Aunt Sarah, more direct in her typical fashion. "Your uncle collapsed during Tyler's game yesterday. They're saying something about his heart. The doctors are using words we don't understand, and your parents are completely overwhelmed. Can you help us figure out what's going on?" I set down the delicate sensor array I'd been working with and stepped into the hallway to make the calls. Uncle Robert, my father's younger brother, had always been Tyler's most enthusiastic supporter after my parents. He attended every game, funded additional training camps, and had been instrumental in connecting Tyler with college recruiters. He was also someone who had consistently dismissed my academic achievements as book learning that wouldn't help anyone in the real world. Aunt Sarah answered on the first ring, her voice strained with exhaustion and worry. Maya, thank God you called back. Robert had what they're calling a massive cardiac event during Tyler's game yesterday. He's in intensive care at Oregon Health Sciences University, and the doctors keep talking about procedures and treatments that none of us understand. Your parents are there, but they're not asking the right questions, and the medical team seems frustrated.
With all of us. I found myself automatically shifting into the analytical mode that years of graduate training had ingrained in me. What exactly did the doctors tell you about his condition? Do you have any of the medical terminology they used? Something about multiple blockages and emergency surgery. They did something called an angioplasty, but now they're saying he might need bypass surgery. Maya, they're talking about risks and recovery times and long-term care needs, and we just don't know how to process any of this information. As Sarah continued describing the medical situation, I realized that my family was experiencing something I'd encountered countless times in my research work. They were facing a complex technical situation that required specialized knowledge to navigate effectively, and they were discovering that good intentions and emotional investment weren't sufficient substitutes for actual expertise. Let me talk to the medical team, I said, already mentally preparing the questions I would need to ask. I can't provide medical advice, but I can help translate what they're telling you into terms that make sense for decision-making. Within an hour, I was on a conference call with Uncle Robert's cardiologist, Dr. Patricia Williams, who seemed relieved to be speaking with someone who understood medical terminology and research methodology. She explained that Robert had suffered a major heart attack caused by multiple coronary artery blockages, that the emergency angioplasty had been successful in restoring immediate blood flow, but that his long-term prognosis would depend on additional surgical intervention and significant lifestyle changes. The family seems overwhelmed by the treatment options, Dr. Williams said diplomatically. They're asking for simple answers to complex medical questions, and they're having difficulty understanding the risk-benefit analysis for different surgical approaches. I spent the next 2 hours on calls with various family members, translating medical information, explaining treatment options, and helping them understand the questions they should be asking the medical team. It was exactly the kind of technical communication and analytical thinking that my academic training had prepared me for, applied to a situation where my family desperately needed someone who could navigate complex information systems. By evening, I had created a detailed summary of Uncle Robert's condition, treatment options, and recovery timeline that I emailed to all the family members. I included explanations of medical terminology, links to reputable sources for additional information, and a list of questions they should ask during their next meeting with the medical team. My phone rang almost immediately after I sent the email. It was my mother calling from the hospital waiting room. Maya, this is incredibly helpful. We've been so confused and scared, and the doctors have been patient with us, but we just didn't know what questions to ask or how to understand what they were telling us. There was a pause, and I could hear the exhaustion in her voice. I know we haven't been the best at recognizing what you do, but this is exactly the kind of thing we needed. Someone who can understand complex information and explain it to the rest of us. We should have realized that your education and training would be valuable for more than just your research work. It was the closest thing to an acknowledgement of my expertise that I'd received from my family in years. Not quite an apology for dismissing my achievements, but a recognition that the intellectual skills I'd developed through my education had practical applications beyond academic research. Over the following weeks, I became the family's informal medical liaison. I attended virtual meetings with Robert's medical team, researched treatment options and recovery protocols, and helped coordinate the complex logistics of his care. When questions arose about insurance coverage for different procedures, I researched policy details and helped the family understand their options. When they needed to evaluate rehabilitation facilities, I created comparison charts based on quality metrics and patient outcomes data. It was work that drew directly on the analytical and research skills I used in my professional life, applied to a situation where my family genuinely needed someone with my particular combination of technical knowledge and communication abilities. For the first time in years, my relatives were actively seeking my input and treating my expertise as valuable rather than irrelevant. The irony wasn't lost on me that Uncle Robert, who had spent years dismissing my academic achievements as impractical, was now benefiting directly from the intellectual skills he'd considered useless. The same analytical thinking that he'd characterized as book learning was now helping his family navigate the most important medical decisions of his life. But I didn't approach the situation with vindictiveness or resentment. Instead, I found myself genuinely wanting to help, both because I cared about Robert's recovery and because I recognized that my family was facing the same kind of complex technical challenge that I dealt with regularly in my research work. They needed someone who could process specialized information, evaluate options systematically, and communicate findings clearly. That happened to be exactly what my education and training had prepared me to do. 3 weeks after Robert's initial cardiac event, I flew to Portland to attend a family meeting with his medical team. It was my first time back in Oregon since moving to Baltimore, and my first time seeing my parents since the awkward goodbye when I'd left for Stanford years earlier. The reunion was strange and somewhat formal. My parents seemed genuinely grateful for my help with Robert's situation, but there was an underlying discomfort that suggested they weren't quite sure how to interact with me in my new role as the family's technical expert. They treated me with a deference that felt unfamiliar, asking for my opinion on medical decisions and deferring to my judgment about treatment options. Tyler was there too, looking older and more serious than I remembered. His soccer career at University of Washington was going well, but he seemed subdued by Robert's medical crisis. During a quiet moment in the hospital waiting room, he approached me with something that might have been an apology. "Maya, I never really understood what you studied in school, but watching you help with Uncle Robert's situation has been really impressive. You know how to talk to the doctors and understand all this medical stuff that the rest of us find completely overwhelming." He paused, looking uncomfortable with the conversation. "I guess I never thought about how your education would be useful for real-world problems. I always just thought about my soccer stuff as more practical because it was physical and competitive. But this is practical too, just in a different way." It wasn't a profound insight, but it represented more acknowledgement of my expertise than I'd received from Tyler in our entire adult relationship. He was beginning to understand that different types of knowledge and skills had value in different situations, and that intellectual expertise could be just as practical and necessary as athletic ability. The meeting with Robert's medical team went smoothly, largely because I was able to facilitate communication between the family and the doctors. I translated medical terminology, asked clarifying questions about treatment protocols, and helped my relatives understand the decision-making framework the medical team was using to evaluate different options. Dr. Williams later pulled me aside to thank me for helping to bridge the communication gap. "It's clear that your family trusts your judgment and values your input," she said. "Having someone who can understand the medical information and communicate it effectively to the other family members makes these conversations much more productive. Your relatives are asking better questions and making more informed decisions because they have someone who can help them process the technical information." That evening, my parents invited me to stay for dinner at the family home. It was the first time in years that we'd had a meal together without Tyler's athletic schedule dominating the conversation. Instead, we talked about Robert's recovery plan, the family's strategy for supporting him through rehabilitation, and the logistics of coordinating his ongoing care. My mother had prepared my favorite meal from childhood, and my father asked detailed questions about my work at Johns Hopkins and my research on neural interface technology. It wasn't the profound emotional reconciliation that might happen in movies, but it was a comfortable evening where my expertise was valued and my contributions to the family situation were acknowledged. As I prepared to return to Baltimore the next day, my mother walked me to the car and made an observation that surprised me with its directness. "Maya, watching you handle Robert's medical situation has made me realize how much we've missed by not understanding what you do professionally. You have skills and knowledge that none of the rest of us possess, and when we needed someone who could navigate complex information, you were the only one who could help us." She paused, looking thoughtful. "I think we've been so focused on Tyler's achievements because they're easy to understand and measure. Soccer goals and scholarships are straightforward, but what you do is more complicated, and we didn't take the time to learn enough about it to appreciate how valuable it is." It wasn't exactly an apology, but it was an acknowledgement that they had undervalued my achievements because they didn't understand them, not because those achievements were inherently less important than Tyler's athletic success. Over the following months, my relationship with my family began to evolve in ways I hadn't expected. Robert's recovery was slow but steady, and I continued to serve as the family's liaison with his medical team. My parents called regularly to update me on his progress and to ask questions about treatment decisions. Jessica and Sarah reached out when they had questions about health insurance or medical procedures for their own families. Gradually, my relatives began asking about my work at Johns Hopkins, my research publications, and my professional achievements. They started sharing my career updates on social media with the same enthusiasm they'd previously reserved for Tyler's soccer accomplishments. When I was featured in a Baltimore Sun article about medical device innovation, my mother posted the link on Facebook with a lengthy caption about how proud she was of my work. Tyler's soccer career continued to progress well, and my parents still attended his games and celebrated his achievements. But the balance of family attention had shifted in a way that created space for both of our accomplishments to be recognized and valued. The most significant change came 8 months after Robert's cardiac event, when I received a call from my father that I never could have anticipated. Maya, I have a professional question for you. I'm considering expanding my accounting practice to include medical billing and healthcare consulting, but I don't understand the regulatory environment well enough to evaluate whether it's a good business opportunity. Would you be willing to help me research the industry and understand?
What would be involved?
It was the first time in my adult life that my father had asked for my professional expertise on a business decision. He was recognizing that my analytical skills and research abilities had applications beyond medical emergencies, and that my education had prepared me to tackle complex technical problems in various fields. I spent several weeks helping him evaluate the healthcare consulting opportunity, researching regulatory requirements, analyzing market conditions, and creating a feasibility study that he could use to make an informed business decision. It was consulting work that drew directly on the same skills I used in my academic research, applied to a business context where my family could see the practical value of intellectual analysis. The project also gave us an opportunity to work together as professional colleagues rather than as parent and child. My father treated my input with genuine respect, implemented my research recommendations, and credited my analysis when he ultimately decided to pursue the healthcare consulting expansion. 6 months later, his new healthcare consulting division was generating significant revenue for his accounting practice, and he'd hired 2 additional staff members to handle the increased workload. He regularly referred to the feasibility study I'd prepared as the foundation for his business expansion, and he'd begun recommending my consulting services to other business owners who needed help with technical analysis projects. The success of that consulting project led to additional opportunities for me to apply my research skills to practical problems outside of academia. Other family members and family friends began reaching out when they faced complex technical challenges that required systematic analysis and problem solving. When Jessica was considering career changes, I helped her research different industries and evaluate educational programs. When Sarah's husband was diagnosed with a chronic medical condition, I helped them understand treatment options and navigate insurance coverage decisions. When Tyler was exploring business opportunities after graduation, I provided analytical support for evaluating different entrepreneurial ventures. These consulting projects were personally satisfying because they allowed me to use my intellectual skills to help people I cared about, but they were also professionally valuable because they expanded my experience with applied research in diverse fields. The analytical and communication skills that I'd developed through academic training proved to be highly transferable to practical problem solving in business, healthcare, legal, and personal contexts. More importantly, these projects had fundamentally changed how my family understood and valued my education and expertise. They no longer saw my academic achievements as abstract intellectual exercises disconnected from real-world applications. Instead, they recognized that my training had equipped me with valuable skills for navigating complex technical challenges in various aspects of life. The transformation in family dynamics reached a symbolic culmination the following spring, when Tyler graduated from University of Washington with his business degree. My parents organized a graduation celebration dinner and insisted that I be the one to give the toast honoring his achievement. Tyler has worked incredibly hard to excel both academically and athletically during his college years. I said, raising my glass to the family gathered around the restaurant table. But more than that, he's learned to appreciate different types of knowledge and expertise. He understands now that success comes in many forms, and that the best teams are built by combining different strengths and perspectives. I paused, looking around the table at family members who had become genuine colleagues and collaborators over the past year. Tyler, your athletic achievements taught our family about dedication, perseverance, and teamwork. But you've also learned to value analytical thinking, research skills, and technical expertise. You understand that the most complex challenges require diverse types of knowledge working together. Tyler nodded, smiling with what seemed like genuine understanding, and Maya, my mother, added, "Your academic achievements taught our family about the practical value of intellectual expertise. We learned that research skills and analytical thinking aren't just abstract academic exercises. They're tools for solving real problems and helping people navigate complex challenges." It was the kind of mutual recognition and appreciation that I'd hoped for during my graduate school years but had never expected to receive. Both Tyler's athletic accomplishments and my academic achievements were being acknowledged as valuable contributions that had strengthened our family's collective capabilities. After dinner, Tyler and I walked together in the hotel garden while our parents finished their conversation inside. "You know," he said, "I spent a lot of years thinking that your school stuff was boring and impractical compared to soccer. But watching you help Uncle Robert and then help Dad with his business expansion made me realize that what you do is actually really powerful. You can take complicated situations and figure out what's really going on and what needs to happen next." He kicked at a small stone on the path, a gesture that reminded me of the younger brother I'd grown up with. "I'm good at soccer, and that's opened doors for me in college and might lead to some business opportunities. But you're good at understanding how things work and solving problems that other people can't figure out. That's going to be valuable for your entire career, no matter what field you work in." It was a more sophisticated understanding of different types of expertise than I'd ever heard from Tyler, and it suggested that our family's recent experiences had changed his perspective on intellectual achievement and practical problem solving. 2 weeks later, I received an unexpected phone call from Dr. Rodriguez at Stanford. She was organizing a symposium on biomedical engineering applications in clinical settings, and she wanted me to present a keynote address about translating research into practical healthcare solutions. "Maya, your work at Johns Hopkins has gained attention not just for the technical innovation, but for your ability to communicate complex medical technology concepts to diverse audiences. That's exactly the kind of skill set we need to bridge the gap between research and clinical application." The symposium would bring together researchers, clinicians, patients, and family members affected by various medical conditions that could benefit from advanced biomedical engineering solutions. It was an opportunity to present my research to an audience that included both technical experts and people with personal stakes in the practical applications of medical technology. I accepted the speaking invitation immediately, recognizing it as a chance to demonstrate how academic research could address real-world challenges that affected people's daily lives. When I called my parents to tell them about the keynote opportunity, their response was immediately enthusiastic. "Maya, this sounds like an incredible honor," my mother said. "You'll be presenting your research to medical professionals and patients who could benefit from your work. This is exactly the kind of real-world application that makes your academic achievements so meaningful." My father added, "We'd like to attend the symposium if that would be appropriate. We've realized that we don't really understand what you do professionally, and this might be a good opportunity for us to learn more about your field and see you present your work to other experts." It was the first time my parents had ever expressed interest in attending one of my professional presentations. They'd never shown curiosity about academic conferences or research symposiums during my graduate school years, but their recent experience with practical applications of technical expertise had apparently changed their perspective on the value of scholarly work. I was genuinely touched by their interest, and I arranged for them to attend the symposium as guests of the organizing committee. The presentation itself went well, focusing on how neural interface research could be translated into practical assistive technology that would improve quality of life for people with various types of mobility challenges. I used case studies from my recent clinical collaborations to demonstrate how academic research could be adapted to address specific patient needs and family concerns. During the question and answer session, several audience members asked about the communication challenges involved in translating technical research for non-expert audiences. I was able to draw on my recent experience helping my family navigate medical information to discuss strategies for making complex technical concepts accessible to people who needed to understand practical applications without necessarily mastering all the underlying scientific details. After the presentation, my parents approached me with expressions that combined pride, amazement, and something that might have been newfound respect. "Maya," my mother said, "listening to you present your research and answer questions from medical professionals was incredible. You're not just conducting academic studies, you're developing technology that could change people's lives, and you're able to explain it in ways that both experts and patients can understand." My father nodded emphatically. We had no idea that your work was so directly connected to helping people with real medical challenges. We thought academic research was more theoretical, but what you're doing has immediate practical applications that could improve thousands of lives. That evening, over dinner near the Stanford campus, we had the most substantive conversation about my professional work that we'd ever shared. My parents asked detailed questions about my research methodology, my collaboration with clinical partners, and my long-term career goals. They wanted to understand not just what I was doing, but why it mattered and how it connected to broader advances in medical technology. For the first time, they were treating my academic career with the same level of interest and respect they'd always shown for Tyler's athletic achievements. They were recognizing that intellectual accomplishment could be just as meaningful and impactful as competitive success, just measured by different criteria and evaluated over different timescales. The symposium marked a turning point in how my family understood and valued my professional identity. They began forwarding articles about biomedical engineering advances, asking about my research collaborations, and sharing updates about my work with their friends and colleagues. When I was promoted to senior research director at Johns Hopkins 6 months later, my parents organized a celebration dinner that rivaled any of Tyler's athletic achievement parties. They invited extended family members, prepared a detailed explanation of what the promotion meant for my career trajectory, and gave a toast that demonstrated genuine understanding of my professional accomplishments. 3 years had passed since Uncle Robert's cardiac event had first prompted my family to recognize the practical value of my expertise. During that time, our relationships had evolved from polite distance to genuine collaboration and mutual respect. I was no longer the overlooked family member, whose achievements were minimized in favor of Tyler's more visible successes. Instead, I had become a valued family resource, whose analytical skills and technical knowledge were regularly sought for both personal and professional challenges. Tyler's athletic career had transitioned into a business career where he applied the teamwork and competitive skills he'd developed through soccer. My academic career had evolved into a leadership role where I directed research that had direct applications for improving people's lives through advanced medical technology. Both of our career paths were now recognized by our family as valuable contributions that drew on different types of expertise and served different kinds of practical purposes. The competition for parental attention and recognition had been replaced by collaboration and mutual support. Most importantly, I had learned that family relationships could evolve and improve when people are willing to recognize and value different types of achievement. My parents' initial dismissal of my academic accomplishments hadn't been rooted in malice or favoritism, but in a lack of understanding about how intellectual expertise could have practical applications. Once they experienced firsthand how research skills and analytical thinking could help them navigate complex challenges, they were able to appreciate the value of my education and professional development. They recognized that academic achievement deserved the same level of recognition and support they'd always provided for athletic accomplishment. The process hadn't required me to diminish Tyler's successes or compete for limited family resources. Instead, it had involved expanding our family's understanding of different types of valuable expertise and creating space for multiple forms of achievement to be celebrated and supported. Looking back, I realized that Uncle Robert's medical crisis had provided an opportunity for my family to see my expertise in action, but the foundation for change had been built through years of my own professional development and growing confidence in the value of my work. I had stopped seeking validation from people who didn't understand my achievements and had instead built a professional identity around meaningful work that had real-world impact. When my family finally recognized the practical value of my expertise, I was able to respond from a position of strength and genuine desire to help, rather than from a place of resentment or need for approval. The experience had taught me that sometimes the best way to gain recognition for your achievements is to focus on doing meaningful work that demonstrates its own value, rather than trying to convince people who aren't ready to understand what you've accomplished. And sometimes when people are ready to learn, they can surprise you with their capacity for growth, understanding, and genuine appreciation for types of excellence they'd never previously recognized. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning, while I was reviewing grant applications in my office at Johns Hopkins. My assistant knocked gently on the door, her expression suggesting something more urgent than typical administrative matters. "Dr. Chen, your mother is online too. She says it's important and involves your brother." I felt my stomach tighten slightly as I picked up the phone. Family calls during work hours usually meant some kind of crisis, and given Tyler's active lifestyle and competitive sports background, my mind immediately went to injury scenarios. "Maya, thank goodness you're available." My mother's voice carried a tension I hadn't heard since Uncle Robert's medical emergency. Tyler's been in an accident. He's okay, he's not hurt, but there are legal complications that we don't understand, and the attorneys are using terminology that's completely over our heads. I set aside the grant applications and reached for a notepad, automatically shifting into the analytical mode that had become second nature when my family faced complex technical challenges. What kind of accident? What are the legal issues? He was driving home from a business meeting in Seattle when another car ran a red light and hit him. The other driver was seriously injured, and now there are questions about liability and insurance coverage that nobody can explain to us clearly. The attorneys keep talking about comparative negligence and coverage limits and litigation strategies. My mother paused, and I
could hear the exhaustion in her voice. Tyler wasn't at fault, but apparently that doesn't mean the legal situation is straightforward. There are medical bills and property damage and potential lawsuits, and we need someone who can help us understand what's happening and what our options are. Over the next hour, I spoke with Tyler directly, his insurance agent, and two different attorneys who were representing various parties in the accident. It quickly became clear that while the accident itself wasn't Tyler's fault, the legal and financial implications were complicated by Oregon's comparative negligence laws, insufficient insurance coverage limits, and the severity of the other driver's injuries. Tyler was facing potential personal liability that could exceed his insurance coverage, and the family was being pressured to make decisions about legal representation and settlement negotiations without fully understanding the long-term consequences of different approaches. It was exactly the kind of complex analytical challenge that my research training had prepared me to tackle. Multiple variables, competing interests, incomplete information, and high-stakes decision-making under pressure. The legal system operated with the same kind of specialized knowledge and technical procedures that I navigated regularly in academic and medical contexts. I spent the rest of the week researching Oregon traffic law, insurance regulations, and personal injury litigation procedures. I created detailed summaries of Tyler's legal situation, analyzed the strengths and weaknesses of different defense strategies, and helped the family evaluate attorneys based on their experience with similar cases and their track record of favorable outcomes. The work drew directly on the same analytical skills I used for biomedical research, applied to a legal context where my family desperately needed someone who could process complex information and communicate it clearly for decision-making purposes. By the following Monday, I had prepared a comprehensive analysis of Tyler's legal situation that included explanations of relevant laws, comparisons of different legal strategies, and recommendations for selecting appropriate legal representation. I also created a financial projection showing potential costs and liabilities under various scenarios, helping the family understand the economic implications of different settlement approaches. Tyler flew to Baltimore that weekend so we could review the legal analysis together and prepare for meetings with potential attorneys. It was the first time we'd spent extended time together as adults without the context of family gatherings or medical emergencies. Sitting in my apartment near the Johns Hopkins campus, reviewing legal documents and discussing litigation strategy, I was struck by how much our relationship had evolved since my graduate school years. Tyler was no longer the soccer-focused teenager whose achievements had dominated family attention. He'd matured into someone who could engage seriously with complex problems, and who genuinely valued analytical thinking and expert advice. "Maya, this legal analysis you've prepared is incredibly thorough," he said, reviewing the documentation I'd created. "You've explained everything in ways that actually make sense, and you've identified questions and issues that none of us would have thought to consider." He paused, looking thoughtful. "I keep thinking about how dismissive I used to be about your academic work. I thought it was all theoretical and removed from real-world problems. But watching you tackle Uncle Robert's medical situation and now this legal crisis has made me realize that analytical thinking and research skills are incredibly practical tools for navigating complex challenges." Tyler had always been intelligent, but his intelligence had been channeled primarily toward athletic performance and competitive strategy. The legal crisis was forcing him to engage with intellectual analysis in a way that drew on different cognitive skills than those required for sports excellence. "I'm good at reading game situations and making quick tactical decisions," he continued, "but this legal stuff requires a completely different kind of thinking. You have to understand multiple systems simultaneously, evaluate long-term consequences, and make decisions based on incomplete information. That's exactly the kind of problem-solving you do in your research work.
It was a more sophisticated understanding of different types of intellectual challenges than I'd ever heard from Tyler, and it suggested that his recent experiences had given him genuine appreciation for analytical expertise that extended beyond his previous narrow focus on athletic achievement. We spent the weekend developing a strategy for Tyler's legal situation that combined his practical knowledge of the accident circumstances with my analytical assessment of legal options and potential outcomes. It was the first time we'd worked together as intellectual equals, each contributing different types of expertise to solve a shared problem. The collaboration was professionally satisfying because it demonstrated how academic analytical skills could be applied to practical challenges outside of research contexts. But it was personally meaningful because it represented a fundamental shift in how Tyler and I related to each other as siblings and as adults with different but complementary intellectual capabilities. When Tyler returned to Portland, he implemented the legal strategy we'd developed together, hired the attorney I'd recommended based on my research into their track record, and began settlement negotiations using the analytical framework we'd created for evaluating different offers. Over the following months, as Tyler's legal situation moved toward resolution, my role as the family's technical expert continued to expand into new areas. My parents began consulting me about financial planning decisions, asking me to research investment options and retirement strategies. Jessica reached out for help with evaluating graduate school programs for her teenage daughter. Aunt Sarah requested assistance with understanding Medicare options for Uncle Robert's ongoing medical care. Each of these consulting projects reinforced the family's growing recognition that my academic training had equipped me with valuable analytical skills that could be applied to diverse practical challenges. They were learning that research methodology, critical thinking, and technical communication weren't abstract academic exercises but powerful tools for navigating complex real-world problems. The transformation in family dynamics reached another significant milestone 6 months later, when my parents decided to visit me in Baltimore for the first time since I'd moved to the East Coast. They wanted to see my laboratory, meet my research colleagues, and understand more about the professional environment where I'd built my career. I arranged a comprehensive tour of the Johns Hopkins Biomedical Engineering Department, including demonstrations of the neural interface technology my team was developing and presentations from graduate students who were working on related research projects. My parents asked detailed questions about research methodology, funding sources, and practical applications of our work. They seemed genuinely impressed by the sophistication of the laboratory equipment, the complexity of the research problems we were addressing, and the collaborative relationships I'd built with colleagues from diverse technical backgrounds. Maya, my father said during our tour of the prosthetics testing facility, seeing your work environment and meeting your research team has given me a completely new understanding of what you do professionally. This isn't just academic study. You're leading a team of experts who are developing technology that could revolutionize medical treatment for thousands of people. My mother nodded emphatically, and the way your colleagues talk about your research contributions makes it clear that you're recognized as a leader in your field. They respect your expertise and value your analytical insights. That evening we had dinner with several members of my research team, including James, who had recently moved to Baltimore to join our neural interface project. The conversation ranged from technical discussions of our current research to broader conversations about the future of biomedical engineering and its potential impact on healthcare delivery. My parents engaged actively in the discussions, asking thoughtful questions about our work and sharing their own perspectives on how medical technology advances could benefit people like Uncle Robert who were dealing with chronic health conditions. It was the kind of intellectual conversation that I'd always hoped to have with my family but had never expected to experience. They were treating my professional work with genuine curiosity and respect, engaging with my colleagues as equals, and demonstrating real understanding of the significance of academic research for practical problem solving. James later pulled me aside to comment on how supportive and engaged my parents seemed. "Your family clearly values your work and understands what you've accomplished professionally," he said. "They ask good questions and they seem genuinely proud of what you're doing here. That kind of family support makes a huge difference for career development and personal satisfaction." He was right. Having family members who understood and appreciated my professional achievements created a sense of personal validation that I'd been missing during my graduate school years. It wasn't that I needed family approval to feel confident about my career choices, but having their respect and support made my success feel more meaningful and complete.
The visit also provided an opportunity for my parents to understand how my chosen family of colleagues and mentors had supported my professional development over the years. They met Dr. Rodriguez, who was visiting from Stanford for a research collaboration, and they could see firsthand how academic relationships could provide both intellectual stimulation and personal support. Maya has built an impressive professional network, Dr. Rodriguez told my parents over dinner. She's someone who colleagues turn to for analytical insights and collaborative problem solving. Her research contributions have been significant, but her ability to work effectively with diverse teams and communicate complex ideas clearly has been equally valuable for her career advancement. My parents seemed to understand for the first time that my academic career had involved not just individual achievement, but the development of professional relationships and collaborative skills that were directly applicable to leadership roles in various fields. When they returned to Portland, my parents began describing my work differently to friends and extended family members. Instead of vague references to my education or research, they provided detailed explanations of my leadership role at Johns Hopkins, the practical applications of neural interface technology, and the potential impact of my research on medical treatment advances. They started sharing articles about biomedical engineering breakthroughs, asking about my research publications, and connecting my work to news stories about medical device innovations. They were treating my career with the same level of interest and enthusiasm they'd always shown for Tyler's athletic and business achievements. The change in family dynamics became most apparent during our next major family gathering, Uncle Robert's 70th birthday celebration, 8 months after my parents' Baltimore visit. The entire extended family was present, including relatives I hadn't seen in several years. Throughout the evening, various family members approached me to discuss technical challenges they were facing in their personal or professional lives. Cousin Jessica asked for advice about evaluating college options for her daughter. Uncle Robert wanted to understand new cardiac rehabilitation technologies his doctors had mentioned. Aunt Sarah requested help researching long-term care insurance options. Each conversation demonstrated that my relatives now viewed me as a valuable family resource, whose analytical expertise could help them navigate complex decisions. They weren't just being polite about my career, they were actively seeking my input because they'd learned to trust my judgment and analytical capabilities. The most significant moment came when my father stood up to give a toast honoring Uncle Robert's recovery and continued health. Robert's cardiac event 2 years ago was a crisis that brought our family together in ways we hadn't experienced before, he said, looking around the room at assembled relatives. But it also taught us something important about the different types of expertise and knowledge that exist within our family. He paused, making eye contact with me across the room. We learned that when complex challenges arise, whether medical, legal, financial, or technical, we're fortunate to have family members with specialized knowledge who can help us understand our options and make informed decisions. Maya's education and professional training equipped her with analytical skills that proved invaluable when we needed to navigate complicated technical systems. My father continued, we also learned that academic achievement and intellectual expertise are just as valuable as any other type of accomplishment. Maya's research work is making contributions to medical technology that could improve thousands of lives, and her analytical abilities have helped our family make better decisions about important challenges. He raised his glass in my direction. We're proud of all our children's achievements, and we're grateful that Maya chose to share her expertise with family members who needed help understanding complex technical problems. It was the kind of public recognition and family validation that I'd hoped for during my graduate school years but had never expected to receive. More importantly, it represented genuine understanding of the value of intellectual achievement and academic expertise, not just polite acknowledgement of my career success. Tyler stood up to add his own comments to the toast. Maya's analytical skills and research expertise have been incredibly valuable for our family, but I think we've also learned something about how different types of knowledge and abilities can complement each other, he said. My business training helps me understand competitive strategy and market dynamics. Maya's academic background helps her understand complex technical systems and research methodology. Uncle Robert's life experience gives him wisdom about long-term decision-making. He looked around the room thoughtfully. The best outcomes happen when we combine different types of expertise, rather than competing about whose knowledge is more valuable. Maya's education prepared her to tackle analytical challenges that the rest of us couldn't handle alone.
But she also needed to understand our family dynamics and practical constraints to make her analysis useful for decision making. It was a sophisticated understanding of how different intellectual capabilities could work together collaboratively rather than competitively. Tyler had learned to value analytical thinking without diminishing the importance of his own business and leadership skills. Over the following year, my role within the family continued to evolve as relatives increasingly sought my input on technical challenges and complex decisions. I helped Aunt Sarah evaluate assisted living facilities for her aging mother, researching quality metrics and regulatory standards. I assisted Jessica's daughter with college application strategy, analyzing admissions data and scholarship opportunities. I provided analytical support for my father's continued business expansion, researching market trends and regulatory changes in healthcare consulting. Each of these projects reinforced the family's understanding that academic expertise had practical applications beyond university research environments. They were learning that analytical thinking, research methodology, and technical communication were valuable skills for navigating various types of complex challenges. The consulting work was personally satisfying because it allowed me to use my intellectual capabilities to help people I cared about. But it was also professionally valuable because it expanded my experience with applied research in diverse fields and demonstrated the transferability of academic analytical skills to practical problem-solving contexts. Most importantly, these collaborative projects had created genuine mutual respect between me and family members who had previously undervalued intellectual achievement. We were no longer operating with a hierarchy where athletic or business success was considered more important than academic accomplishment. Instead, we recognized that different types of expertise were valuable for different types of challenges. The transformation reached its culmination the following spring, when I received an unexpected phone call from Tyler with a proposal that surprised me with its thoughtfulness and ambition. Maya, I've been thinking about starting a consulting business that would help families navigate complex technical challenges, like medical crises, legal problems, and financial planning decisions, he said. Based on our family's experience over the past few years, I think there's a real market for services that can translate expert knowledge into practical guidance for people who need to make important decisions about complicated technical issues. He paused and I could hear excitement building in his voice. I have business development and client relationship skills from my work experience, but I don't have the analytical and research capabilities that would be necessary for providing high-quality technical consultation. Would you consider partnering with me to develop this kind of service business? It was a proposal that would combine Tyler's business expertise with my analytical capabilities to create something neither of us could accomplish alone. He was recognizing that intellectual achievement and business success could be complementary rather than competitive, and he was proposing a collaboration that would value both types of expertise equally. I was intrigued by the business concept and impressed by Tyler's recognition that academic analytical skills could have commercial applications beyond university research environments. The proposal represented a complete reversal from our childhood dynamic, where my achievements were minimized in favor of his more visible successes. That's an interesting idea, I said. What kind of services would we provide, and how would we structure the business partnership? Tyler had clearly thought through the business model carefully. We would offer analytical consultation for families facing complex technical decisions in areas like medical treatment, legal strategy, financial planning, and educational choices. I would handle client development and project management, while you would provide the research and analytical expertise. He continued, the business would draw on the same analytical methodology you use in academic research, applied to practical decision-making challenges that families encounter during crisis situations or major life transitions. It was a sophisticated business concept that recognized the commercial value of academic expertise while leveraging Tyler's complementary business development capabilities. The partnership would allow both of us to apply our respective skills to meaningful work that could help people navigate complex challenges more effectively. Over the following months, we developed a detailed business plan for the consulting service, researching market demand, analyzing potential competitors, and designing service offerings that would translate academic analytical methodology into practical decision-making support for families facing technical challenges. The business development process required both of our skill sets working in coordination. Tyler's market research and client development expertise helped identify potential customers and refine our service offerings. My analytical capabilities helped evaluate business feasibility and develop systematic methodologies for providing high-quality consultation. The collaboration demonstrated how academic and business expertise could complement each other effectively when combined strategically. Tyler brought practical knowledge of market dynamics and client relationship management. I brought research methodology and analytical problem-solving capabilities. Neither of us could have developed the business concept alone, but together we could create something that leveraged both types of expertise. The family consulting business launched the following year, initially serving clients in the Pacific Northwest who needed analytical support for navigating complex medical, legal, or financial decisions. Our first major client was a family dealing with elder care decisions for parents with dementia, a situation that required researching care facility options, understanding insurance coverage, and coordinating legal documentation. The project was successful because it combined Tyler's ability to understand client needs and manage project logistics with my capability to research complex technical systems and communicate findings clearly for decision-making purposes. Within 6 months, we had expanded to serve clients throughout Oregon and Washington, providing analytical consultation for families facing various types of technical challenges. The business was profitable, professionally satisfying, and personally meaningful because it allowed us to use our respective expertise to help people navigate difficult situations more effectively. More importantly, the business partnership had created a new dynamic between Tyler and me based on mutual respect and collaborative problem solving rather than competition for family attention and recognition. We were working together as professional equals, each contributing different but equally valuable capabilities to shared goals. The success of our consulting business also demonstrated to our parents and extended family that both athletic achievement and academic accomplishment could lead to meaningful career outcomes when applied thoughtfully to practical challenges. Tyler's business skills and my analytical expertise were both necessary for providing high-quality services to clients who needed help with complex technical decisions. Our family gatherings now included substantive discussions about business strategy, client challenges, and professional development opportunities. Both Tyler's business insights and my research expertise were valued equally in these conversations, and our collaborative success had created space for both types of achievement to be recognized and celebrated. Looking back on the evolution of family dynamics over the past several years, I realized that the transformation hadn't required diminishing anyone's accomplishments or forcing family members to choose between different types of success. Instead, it had involved expanding our collective understanding of how different forms of expertise could complement each other and contribute to shared goals. Tyler's athletic achievements had taught him valuable lessons about dedication, teamwork, and competitive strategy that proved essential for business development and client relationship management. My academic accomplishments had equipped me with analytical skills and research methodology that were crucial for providing high-quality technical consultation. The combination of our respective expertise created business opportunities that neither of us could have pursued alone, and our professional collaboration had strengthened our personal relationship in ways that transcended the competitive dynamics of our childhood. Most importantly, our family had learned that recognition and support didn't need to be zero-sum resources. Celebrating Tyler's athletic and business achievements didn't require minimizing my academic and research accomplishments. Supporting my intellectual development didn't diminish the value of his competitive and entrepreneurial success. We had discovered that families function most effectively when different types of expertise are valued equally and when individual achievements are recognized as contributions to collective family capabilities rather than as competitions for limited attention and resources. The consulting business continues to grow and expand into new service areas, drawing on both Tyler's business development skills and my analytical expertise to help families navigate increasingly complex technical challenges. Our professional partnership has created opportunities for both of us that wouldn't have existed without combining our different but complementary capabilities. Our family relationships have evolved into genuine collaboration and mutual support, with each family member's unique expertise valued for its contributions to shared goals and collective problem-solving capabilities. And I've learned that sometimes the most profound changes in family dynamics happen not through dramatic confrontations or emotional appeals, but through patient demonstration of value, consistent professional excellence, and willingness to collaborate, rather than compete when opportunities for mutual success arise. 5 years after Tyler and I launched our family consulting business, I received a phone call that would test everything our family had learned about recognizing different types of value and supporting each other through complex challenges. The call came from Dr. Elena Vasquez at Johns Hopkins, and her voice carried the weight of news that would reshape my understanding of how professional achievement and personal relationships intersect in unexpected ways. "Maya, I need to discuss something sensitive with you," she said, her tone carefully measured. "We've received a significant federal research grant to establish a new National Center for Neural Interface Innovation, and the funding agency has specifically requested that you be considered for the director position." I felt my pulse quicken as she continued. This would be one of the most prestigious research leadership roles in biomedical engineering, with a budget exceeding $50 million over 5 years, and the opportunity to establish protocols that could influence neural interface development worldwide. The position would represent the pinnacle of achievement in my field, the kind of opportunity that most researchers spend entire careers hoping to encounter. But Dr. Vasquez's tone suggested there were complications that made the offer less straightforward than it might initially appear. "The challenge," she continued, "is that accepting this role would require relocating to Geneva, Switzerland, where the center would be established as part of an international collaboration with European research institutions. The position would involve leading a multinational team of researchers and coordinating with medical device companies across multiple countries. Geneva, 6,000 miles from Baltimore, 9,000 miles from Portland, and an ocean away from the family relationships that had been rebuilt over years of careful collaboration and mutual respect. The directorship would advance my career in ways I'd never imagined possible.
But it would also mean leaving behind the personal connections that had become central to my sense of professional fulfillment. "The funding agency needs a response within 6 weeks," Dr. Vasquez added. "They're aware of your family consulting business with Tyler, and they've indicated that the international nature of the role would make maintaining outside business commitments impractical." After ending the call, I sat in my office overlooking the Baltimore harbor, watching cargo ships navigate toward distant ports while processing the implications of this unexpected opportunity. The directorship represented everything I'd worked toward professionally, but accepting it would mean dismantling the family relationships and collaborative partnerships that had taken years to build. That evening, I called Tyler to discuss the opportunity and its potential impact on our business partnership and family dynamics. His response surprised me with its immediate focus on my professional interests rather than the complications for our shared business ventures. "Maya, this sounds like an incredible opportunity," he said without hesitation. "A national research center directorship is exactly the kind of leadership role your career has been building toward. You can't pass up something like this because of business considerations or family logistics." I had expected him to express concern about the consulting business or to point out the practical challenges of managing international collaboration. Instead, he seemed immediately focused on the professional significance of the opportunity and its long-term implications for my career development. "But what about our consulting business?" I asked. "We've built something meaningful together, and our clients depend on the analytical services we provide." Tyler paused thoughtfully before responding. "The consulting business has been successful because it leveraged your analytical expertise and my business development skills. But your analytical capabilities are being recognized at an international level now. This directorship would allow you to apply those same skills to research challenges that could impact millions of people." He continued, "I can adapt the business model to work with other analytical experts, or I can transition into different types of consulting that don't require your specific research background. The important thing is that you pursue the opportunity that best utilizes your expertise and advances your professional goals." It was exactly the kind of response that demonstrated how completely our family dynamics had changed over the past several years. Tyler was prioritizing my career advancement over his own business interests, recognizing that my professional development was more important than maintaining our current collaborative arrangements. Over the following week, I had similar conversations with other family members about the Geneva opportunity and its implications for our relationships. Each conversation reinforced that my relatives now understood and valued my professional expertise enough to support career decisions that would advance my research impact, even when those decisions created personal inconvenience for family relationships. My parents' response was particularly revealing of how their perspective on my career had evolved since my graduate school years.
Maya, this directorship sounds like recognition that you're one of the leading experts in your field internationally, my mother said during our phone conversation. You've worked for years to build the expertise that qualifies you for this kind of leadership role. We would never want family considerations to prevent you from pursuing an opportunity that could advance medical research and help people worldwide. My father added, we understand that your work has implications beyond our family or even our community. If your research can contribute to medical advances that help people internationally, then that's where your expertise should be applied. It was a complete reversal from their response to my PhD graduation years earlier, when they dismissed my academic achievements as less important than Tyler's soccer tournament. Now they were encouraging me to pursue professional opportunities that would advance my research impact, even when those opportunities required significant personal sacrifice from family relationships. The most meaningful conversation came with Uncle Robert, whose medical crisis had initially prompted my family to recognize the practical value of my analytical expertise. Maya, when I had my heart attack, you were the person who could translate medical information and help us understand our options, he said during our phone call. But your real expertise isn't just helping individual families navigate medical decisions. It's developing technology that could prevent other families from facing the same crises we experienced. He paused and I could hear the thoughtfulness in his voice. If you can lead research that advances neural interface technology for medical applications, then that's work that could help thousands of people who are dealing with medical challenges similar to what our family has faced. That's a bigger contribution than anything you could accomplish through individual consultation. Robert's perspective helped me understand that the choice wasn't simply between personal relationships and professional advancement. It was about how to apply my expertise most effectively to work that could have the greatest positive impact on other people's lives. Over the following 2 weeks, I researched the Geneva position extensively, evaluating the research opportunities, assessing the international collaboration prospects, and analyzing the potential impact of the Neural Interface Center on global medical device development. The analytical process helped clarify that this directorship represented exactly the kind of research leadership role that could maximize the practical applications of my academic expertise. I also consulted with Dr. Rodriguez and other mentors about the career implications of accepting an international research directorship. Their perspectives reinforced that this opportunity would position me to influence neural interface development at a global level, potentially affecting medical treatment protocols for neurological conditions worldwide. Maya, you've spent years developing expertise in neural interface technology and proving your capabilities as a research leader, Dr. Rodriguez said during our conversation. This directorship would allow you to establish research standards and clinical protocols that could influence how neural interfaces are developed and implemented internationally. She continued, individual consulting work is valuable, but research leadership at this level could impact medical treatment for millions of people with neurological conditions. That's the kind of contribution that justifies the personal sacrifices required for international career advancement. 3 weeks after receiving the initial offer, I made the decision to accept the Geneva directorship. The choice felt simultaneously exciting and bittersweet, representing professional advancement that would require leaving behind personal relationships that had become central to my life satisfaction. Informing Tyler about my decision prompted a conversation that demonstrated how thoroughly our relationship had evolved from competitive siblings to collaborative professionals who genuinely supported each other's success. I'm incredibly proud of you for pursuing this opportunity, he said immediately upon hearing my decision. This directorship is recognition that your expertise is valued at the highest levels of international research. You're going to lead work that could change medical treatment for neurological conditions worldwide. Tyler continued, our consulting business was successful because it combined our different capabilities, but your analytical expertise was always the core value that we provided to clients. Now you're taking those same capabilities to research challenges that could impact millions of people rather than individual families. He paused thoughtfully. I've learned a lot about business development and analytical methodology through our partnership. I can apply those skills to other consulting opportunities, or I can explore different types of business ventures. The important thing is that you pursue the role that best utilizes your expertise and advances your research impact. It was exactly the kind of supportive response that demonstrated genuine understanding of professional priorities and long-term career development. Tyler was prioritizing my research advancement over our current business arrangements, recognizing that my expertise could have greater impact through international research leadership than through individual family consultation.
My parents' response to the Geneva decision was equally supportive, though tinged with sadness about the geographic distance that would limit our newly rebuilt family relationships. "We're incredibly proud that your expertise is being recognized internationally," my mother said. "This directorship represents the culmination of everything you've worked toward academically and professionally. We want you to pursue opportunities that advance your research and help people worldwide, even when those opportunities take you far from family." My father added, "We've learned that your work has implications that extend far beyond our immediate family. If your research leadership can contribute to medical advances that help people internationally, then that's more important than maintaining geographic proximity to family relationships." The decision to accept the Geneva position also required difficult conversations with research colleagues and clinical collaborators who had become central to my professional identity at Johns Hopkins. These relationships had provided both intellectual stimulation and personal support throughout my career development, and leaving them behind felt like another significant sacrifice required for career advancement. Dr. Vasquez, who had become both a mentor and a close friend, helped me understand that career advancement often requires difficult transitions that temporarily disrupt established relationships. Maya research leadership at this level requires willingness to pursue opportunities that maximize your impact on the field, even when those opportunities require personal sacrifice, she said during our final collaboration meeting. "The Geneva directorship will position you to influence neural interface development globally, but it will also create opportunities for international collaboration that could benefit researchers worldwide." She continued, "The relationships you've built at Johns Hopkins will continue to be valuable for international research collaboration. Geographic distance doesn't eliminate professional partnerships when the work is meaningful and the research outcomes are significant." Her perspective helped me understand that accepting the Geneva role wasn't abandoning established relationships but rather expanding my professional network to include international collaboration opportunities that could enhance research impact for everyone involved. The transition process itself took several months, requiring extensive coordination with European research institutions, federal funding agencies, and international medical device companies. Each step of the process reinforced that this directorship would involve research challenges and leadership responsibilities that exceeded anything I'd previously experienced. Tyler proved invaluable during the transition period, helping coordinate the logistics of international relocation while managing the wind-down of our consulting business and the transfer of client relationships to other analytical consultants. His business development expertise ensured that our clients continued to receive high-quality services while allowing me to focus on research transition preparations. "This is exactly the kind of project management and coordination that our consulting business taught me to handle effectively," he said during one of our planning sessions. "I'm applying the same organizational skills to help you transition to international research leadership that I used for managing client projects." The collaboration demonstrated how the skills we developed through our business partnership continued to be valuable even as we transitioned to different professional directions. Tyler's business expertise was directly applicable to managing complex logistical challenges, while my analytical capabilities were being applied to research leadership at an international level. 6 months after accepting the Geneva offer, I relocated to Switzerland to begin establishing the National Center for Neural Interface Innovation. The initial phase involved recruiting researchers from multiple countries, coordinating with European medical institutions, and designing research protocols that would guide neural interface development internationally. The work was intellectually challenging and professionally fulfilling in ways that exceeded my expectations. Leading a multinational research team required combining technical expertise with cultural sensitivity and international collaboration skills. The research questions we were addressing had potential implications for neurological treatment protocols worldwide. Most importantly, the Geneva directorship allowed me to apply the analytical and leadership skills I'd developed throughout my career to research challenges that could impact millions of people with neurological conditions. The work felt like the natural culmination of my academic training and professional development applied to problems with genuine global significance. Maintaining family relationships across international distances required new forms of communication and connection, but the foundation of mutual respect and understanding that had been rebuilt over recent years proved resilient to geographic separation. My parents, Tyler, and other family members remained actively interested in my research work and supportive of my professional advancement, even when physical distance limited our personal interactions.
Tyler's business ventures continued to evolve and expand, drawing on the analytical methodology and project management skills he developed through our consulting partnership. He transitioned into providing business development services for technology companies, helping them navigate complex regulatory and market challenges in ways that leveraged his understanding of analytical problem solving. Working with you on the consulting business taught me to value analytical thinking and systematic problem solving, he said during one of our video calls. I'm applying those same approaches to business challenges for technology companies that need help understanding complex market dynamics and regulatory requirements. His continued professional success demonstrated that our collaborative partnership had been beneficial for both of our career development, even though it had evolved into different forms as our professional paths diverged. The most gratifying aspect of the Geneva role was the opportunity to work on research that had direct applications for medical treatment advances. Within the first year, our center had developed neural interface protocols that were being tested in clinical trials for spinal cord injury rehabilitation and prosthetic device control. The work drew directly on the same analytical skills I'd used for family consulting and academic research, applied to challenges that could improve medical treatment for people worldwide. It was exactly the kind of meaningful work that justified the personal sacrifices required for international career advancement. 2 years into the Geneva directorship, I received recognition from the International Society for Neural Engineering for contributions to neural interface standardization and clinical protocol development. The award ceremony was attended by researchers from dozens of countries, medical device company representatives, and clinicians who were implementing neural interface technology in patient treatment. During my acceptance speech, I reflected on how the analytical skills developed through academic training could be applied to research challenges with global impact. Neural interface technology represents the intersection of engineering innovation and medical application, I said to the international audience. Advancing this field requires combining technical expertise with understanding of clinical needs and patient outcomes. The most effective research happens when we apply analytical methodology to problems that have direct implications for improving people's lives. The recognition represented professional validation at the highest levels of international research, but it also felt like affirmation that the career choices I'd made, including the difficult decision to leave family relationships and established collaborations, had contributed to work with genuine significance for medical advancement. 3 months after the award ceremony, I received an unexpected phone call from Tyler with news that demonstrated how completely our family dynamics had transformed over the past decade. "Maya, I wanted to share something with you that I think will make you proud," he said, his voice carrying excitement and satisfaction. "I've been selected to serve on the board of directors for the Pacific Northwest Neural Recovery Foundation, a nonprofit organization that provides support services for people with spinal cord injuries." He continued, "The board position is specifically focused on technology integration and research collaboration. They selected me because of my experience with analytical problem solving and my understanding of how research advances can be translated into practical applications for patient care." Tyler explained that his role would involve helping the foundation evaluate emerging neural interface technologies and coordinate with research institutions to ensure that clinical advances reached patients who could benefit from improved treatment options. "Working with you on family consulting and learning about your neural interface research helped me understand how technology development connects to patient care," he said. "This board position allows me to apply that understanding to help people with neurological conditions access the best available treatment options." It was a perfect example of how our collaborative partnership had influenced both of our career development in unexpected ways. Tyler's exposure to analytical methodology through our business partnership had prepared him to contribute meaningfully to healthcare technology evaluation, while my research expertise was being applied to global neural interface advancement. The foundation board appointment also demonstrated that our family's journey from competitive dynamics to collaborative support had created opportunities for both of us to apply our respective expertise to meaningful work that helped other people facing complex challenges. Over the following year, Tyler and I began collaborating on projects that combined my international research perspective with his understanding of patient advocacy and healthcare technology implementation. The Pacific Northwest Neural Recovery Foundation became one of the first organizations to implement clinical protocols developed by our Geneva Research Center. The collaboration allowed both of us to apply our expertise to work that bridged research advancement and practical patient care, creating exactly the kind of meaningful professional partnership that had evolved from our earlier family consulting business. Most importantly, our professional collaboration demonstrated that family relationships could evolve to support individual achievement while creating opportunities for shared contribution to meaningful work. We were no longer competing for recognition or prioritizing different types of success. Instead, we were combining our respective expertise to advance research and patient care in ways that neither of us could accomplish alone. Looking back on the journey from my overlooked PhD graduation to international research leadership, I realized that the most significant transformation hadn't been in my professional achievements but in my family's understanding of how different types of expertise could complement each other and contribute to shared goals. My parents had learned to value intellectual achievement alongside athletic accomplishment, recognizing that both types of excellence required dedication, skill development, and meaningful application to real-world challenges. Tyler had learned to appreciate analytical thinking and research methodology, understanding that academic expertise could be just as practical and impactful as business development and competitive strategy. The evolution in family dynamics had created space for both athletic achievement and academic accomplishment to be celebrated and supported, eliminating the competitive atmosphere that had characterized our childhood relationships. More importantly, it had enabled collaborative partnerships that leveraged our different capabilities for meaningful work that helped other people. The Geneva Directorship continues to provide opportunities for research leadership that could influence neural interface development globally. Tyler's foundation work continues to help patients access emerging treatment technologies. Our collaborative projects continue to bridge research advancement and practical patient care. Our family relationships have evolved into genuine mutual support and respect, with each person's unique expertise valued for its contributions to collective capability and meaningful work. I chose my new family of colleagues and collaborators during graduate school when I felt undervalued and dismissed by my relatives. But ultimately, my original family chose to grow and change, learning to recognize different types of achievement and to support each other's professional development in ways that created opportunities for shared contribution to meaningful work. Sometimes the most profound personal transformations happen not through dramatic confrontations or emotional appeals, but through patient demonstration of value, consistent professional excellence, and willingness to collaborate rather than compete when opportunities arise for mutual success and meaningful contribution to work that helps other people. The choice to build meaningful relationships based on shared values and mutual respect, whether with family members or chosen colleagues, creates opportunities for both personal fulfillment and professional impact that exceed what any individual could accomplish alone. And that makes all the difference. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.